Hey, howdy, hi friends. Are you ready to get a bit sophisticated today? Well, too bad. Today we're getting chaotic instead. So grab your popcorn and a blankie because I'm telling a story today. It's the story of the Sacred Cod of Massachusetts. No, I'm not talking about the living fish species. I'm talking about a wood carving of that living fish species that is for some reason very important to the state of Massachusetts. Cod fisheries have been historically very important in the Northeast United States, especially in Massachusetts. But cod were fished very heavily, the fishery collapsed, and it hasn't fully recovered yet. But the importance of this cod fishery is represented by this sacred cod, which hangs in the House of Representatives chamber in the Massachusetts State House. The idea of a wooden fish just hanging somewhere in a very important state building makes me laugh. Now, the record of when this 4-foot, 11-inch long wooden fish was created is a little bit fuzzy. But the first of 3 different iterations of the sacred cod may have been created almost 300 years ago in the mid-1700s. That original fish may have been lost to a fire in 1747. So they made another one, which apparently disappeared during the American Revolution, and it's kind of a mystery as to what actually happened to it. I guess there was a lot happening during the American Revolution, so if they happened to have misplaced an almost 5-foot-long wooden fish, I don't really blame them for that. And the third and final version was created and installed in 1784. But of course, that's not the end of the story. That would be way too predictable and boring. So what else happened to this poor innocent little fish? Well, in 1933, there was a scandal, and this is where things get very weird. There had been a codnapping! Members of the Harvard College humor magazine, the Harvard Lampoon, snuck into the building and stole the fish, hiding it in a box of decoy flowers in order to smuggle it out without suspicion. The New York Times said Massachusetts officials were, quote, shocked into a condition bordering on speechlessness, even though they estimated that the value of the sacred cod was, quote, something less than nothing, because, quote, as an object of art, it is worthless. That is so unnecessarily harsh. Well, people were panicking because the sacred cod was missing, so they obviously made every effort they could to find it. They even dragged the Charles River thinking that someone may have thrown it in the water. I don't think this piece of wood is quite worth it at that point. Just make a new one. After following a bunch of clues, the police had found this. A, quote, 6-foot-tall youth, which is, to me, a hilarious phrase, was tall enough to cut the cod down from where it was hanging. That youth had supposedly brought flowers from a Harvard area florist and was seen in the State House building the day of the codnapping. There were interviews conducted and articles written. It was a whole big scandal that really seemed to captivate Bostonians. Eventually, a Harvard official received a very mysterious phone call telling him to go to West Roxbury, which is a neighborhood in Boston. A car met him there, and 2 young men jumped out with their collars popped and their hat brims lowered. They handed him the cod, and they drove away. This sounds like a cartoon. To end it all, they fixed the cod back up where it was damaged, and they hung it back up in the State House where it belongs. But this time they hung it, quote, 6 inches higher than the reach of any individual, which I feel is unhelpful because ladders, which is demonstrated quite well when it was stolen again in 1968. This time it was students from the University of Massachusetts, and they used, guess what? A stepladder to get the fish down. This time the fish was found just a couple days later in one of the hallways of the State House building, which just tells me if it took them a few days to find the fish in a hallway of the building that it usually belongs in, maybe they're not using their space very effectively. Now, did I get all of this information from the Sacred Cod Wikipedia page? Yes, I did. Because Wikipedia is not as bad of a source as your middle school teachers told you. That being said, maybe use it as a jumping off point rather than a sole source of information for a research project or something like that. Now, the Wikipedia page does have some more information on the sacred cod, so I've linked it in the description. And this is now going to be my new favorite story to tell people at parties. This is also a sign to not steal state emblems, but if you're going to do that, make it funny enough to end up on a Wikipedia page. Thank you for joining me for this incredibly random story time and learning whatever we happened to learn from this today. And as always, have a great day and stay sharky, my friends.